A driverless car to take you anywhere you want to go.
It's just kind of surreal.
It's like something out of a science fiction movie.
See no driver in there.
But on the streets of San Francisco, it is very real and a very viral reality. Some companies will drive, others will stall. How did we get here? Where will the autonomous vehicle industry go? We found out as we explore a driverless tomorrow. When hitting the road means going hands-free.
We got a lot of cars passing ourselves, and they might think it's me driving. They don't realize how many of these cars are driving itself today.
What blows your mind?
It's driving itself right now.
What Tesla calls autopilot.
My hands are off the steering wheel and my feet are off the pedal.
It's all computer controlled, so it is managing itself now.
Is this self-driving magic really safe?
North Carolina state troopers say the driver was watching a movie while the car had autopilot engaged.
Tesla has settled a high-profile case involving a driver who died after his Model X crashed while the autopilot was on.
Is the technology as good as it's promised?
Full self-driving hardware on all cars.
That, they say, violates California's new autonomous vehicle regulations.
With a growing number of personal cars boasting autonomous features, owning a self-driving personal car is no longer a distant dream.
Got my first Tesla in 2021. I am a suburban dad, father of two. I have a bit of a commute to my job. I work at an investment firm, and I work off hours. I work market hours, so I really enjoy using the self-driving feature to help with my commute. It's about a 40-minute commute in the morning, and especially for highway driving, especially for stop-and-go traffic, it's very relaxing. It was the most expensive car I've ever purchased, and I didn't ever like a car until I got my Tesla. Now I love my Tesla, and I was excited to get the full self-driving feature. I felt at the beginning, 2021, it probably was overpromised and they under-delivered, so I didn't use it as much, but it's an iterative technology, and so I have noticed it has gotten better and better with each version. I think on a weekly basis, the Tesla downloads a new version, fixes bugs, and things just sort of magically get better, so I find myself trusting it more. I would say at the beginning, it felt like a 13-year-old was driving my car, and now it feels like a 17-year-old is driving my car.
Oh, wow, you're not even driving?
No, not driving.
Okay. And what is that feature called?
Full self-driving assisted, because it has a human inside.
Explain what that is.
Tesla has a bunch of cameras around the car, so it's like perception system where it constantly monitoring what is around it. And then it has a supercomputer in the car with the ability to absorb all those movements to the camera, where it's like street lights or cars moving or pedestrians, and then it literally tells the car what to do at each moment.
When you're in this mode, self-driving, you still have to pay attention.
You have to pay attention, like if you were driving, just to make sure that if you feel uncomfortable at any moment in time, you can disengage the self-driving. You normally don't have to, but it's a safety measure. And normally Tesla requires you to have touching the steering wheel. It will send you reminders like, hey, keep touching it, just to make sure that you are paying attention and in control of the car.
If you lead people to believe you have an autonomous vehicle and it isn't at that level, guess what? You're breaking the law.
The groups are now asking the California Department of Motor Vehicles to force Tesla to stop billing its cars as self-driving.
Former Apple engineer Walter Wong died when his Tesla hit a concrete highway median in the South Bay back in March of 2018.
He told you that the car would drive to that same barrier?
Yes.
The same barrier that he finally hit?
Yeah, that's why I saw the news. I know that that's him.
That was the same spot that he had pointed out to you?
Yes.
Despite its well-publicized problems, people still love this car.
The problems I've read about with full self-driving have been a concern, and so I've been weary to use it in certain situations. For example, driving around a neighborhood with little kids, or frankly, just driving with my kids in the car. So the rule of thumb I use is if it's a situation where you would use cruise control, it's probably a good situation for full self-driving too.
I think Tesla is problematic. I think that it's promoted as autonomous and it's proved not to be. And Tesla has suffered the consequences of that. I think the public now knows that they can't sit in the back of the car and let the car drive itself. There's been many accidents, there's been many lawsuits. And so I think it was erroneous to call it autonomous driving when it wasn't. Tesla is doing a lot of interesting things. I think, yes, it's testing its cars via customers, perhaps before the features in the cars are ready.
On April 26, the NHTSA ended its nearly 3-year investigation into autopilot, which included an analysis of 956 crashes. In 467 of those incidents, the agency determined that Tesla's software didn't sufficiently require the driver's attention. The autopilot driver assistance technology has been linked to more than 200 crashes and 29 deaths. The NHTSA has opened more than 50 special crash investigations into Tesla vehicles thought to be linked to autopilot. But even as the NHTSA closed that inquiry, it opened another. The regulator is probing the company's recall of more than 2 million electric vehicles, which make up nearly all of Tesla's vehicles on the road in the U.S. When we were on the road using Tesla's full self-driving system with Mr. Rakenna, we noticed that the alerts didn't quite work as they were supposed to.
So I haven't heard her alert you about putting your hand back on the steering wheel. Is that supposed to happen?
Back. It's supposed to happen, yeah.
And so what does that do? It just keeps you... What about all these people who I see are sleeping behind the wheel? Is that not true?
I don't think that's possible. It will remind you that you have to put your hands on the wheel. I've been driving... Or look forward. Yeah, I've been driving this car for years, and you can't be more than a couple of minutes without doing something in the car. Yeah. I doubt you can fall asleep and the car will drive itself. It will stop somewhere, it will alert you and stop driving.
Unfortunately, there have been some documented incidents where the cars are driving themselves while the driver behind the wheel is asleep.
The woman filming the video shows another woman in sunglasses, slouched and apparently asleep as the vehicle drove along a busy freeway.
Autonomous driving is dangerous right now. I think people are testing it and they're putting on autopilot for all the wrong reasons. They're doing it maybe for bravado, but they're not using common sense. It's not there yet. And yeah, it's causing a lot of accidents. I'm not an expert, driving expert or a transportation expert, but who's to know whether it's some of the drivers or it's the car or both and combined? I don't know that, and maybe that's the NHTSA's responsibility to figure all that out. I would think some of it's Tesla and some of it's the stupidity of drivers.
It seems that despite its known flaws, Tesla will always have fans of its self-driving capabilities, even if it is not technically an autonomous car.
I'm behind the wheel of the first Level 3 car that will be available to the public, the first of many.
We all have things that help us drive. For example, cruise control, lane keeping assist. Those are examples of Level 1 automation. When a vehicle can control both steering and acceleration, these cars are considered Level 2 autonomy cars, like Tesla's and GM's Super Cruise cars. But a human needs to be in the seat to take control at any time. Level 3 is when you really start getting into self-driving. Mercedes launched the first personal car sold in the U.S. that is considered autonomous. With Mercedes-Benz Level 3 system, the driver can lawfully disengage and perform non-driving tasks, shifting the total liability to the automaker.
Self-driving cars are already things of the present. Now the latest technology from Mercedes-Benz is taking autonomous autos to the next level.
Welcome to the next phase of high-tech driver assistance, Level 3 autonomy. I'm Dave Coons in traffic on the 405 freeway in Los Angeles. I've got Drive Pilot engaged, and I'm free to do what I want. I can look around, I can check out the scenery, I could watch a movie. It's a strange sensation. It takes a bit of getting used to. But I can tell you that if you drive in traffic a lot, this would be really cool to have in your everyday car.
The paradigm shift to Level 3 is that you can take your eyes off the road and your hands off the wheel, right? You're no longer the driver, you're a receptive fallback ready user. So the kinds of things you can do while Level 3 is active, right, would be doing things like in-car office, web browsing, you can go on YouTube, you can play some games in the head unit, or you could watch a movie. So to me, Level 3 has been an ambition of the company for a long time. We've been working on this project for a long time. We're really proud to be the first to bring it to the US, and doing so safely, right? So implementing, I think, key measures that we see as required for safe Level 3 driving. So the LiDAR with a third sensor modality, the redundant chassis, things like that. If you look, right, almost 20 years ago, we introduced the first Level 1 system with Distronic, so adaptive cruise control, and you see that starting to standardize in a lot of cars in the market, right? We introduced Level 2 automation about 9 years ago, and you start to see that in more and more cars. So I think it's reasonable to expect that Level 3 technology will spread throughout the market in the future.
Well, we could look back in time, probably it's a 30-year work on driver assistance systems, so it goes back into the 80s. But the process really started about 5 years ago, getting in touch with the authorities, with the different authorities in Europe and in the US, and just getting them familiar with the offerings of the car, and for us getting to know the regulations and the requirements in the different areas of the world. So it's an extensive work that we did, writing million lines of code and submitting thousands of papers of documentation, doing testing, reliability studies, and convincing all authorities that this is a safe system.
So what makes a Level 3 car different? What additional features does it have that a Level 2 car doesn't?
Yeah, so the sensors that are on Drive Pilot are built upon the driver assistance system that's already integrated on the S-Class. So right, the long-range radar, 4 multi-mode radars, and the stereo camera. And then we add right up to about 30 sensors with a LiDAR, road humidity sensor, and so on.
What is this different from a regular EQS because it's the Drive Pilot car?
Okay.
What are you looking at here?
Yeah, so I think the most fundamental addition is the long-range LiDAR that's integrated into the grille. Right, so this helps us to detect basically any solid object ahead of the car. It sees pretty wide, so it can almost see the corners of the bumper, and sees really far. And that really helps with detecting, to responding to unclassified objects. So things like road debris, and it also adds, a second confirmation of detected objects by the stereo camera and by the radar system, just to make sure that we can deliver the level of safety our customers expect. The other change that I think is maybe a little bit nerdy, I think few would notice, is that the stereo camera at the top of the windshield got wider. But what that boils down to is that we can detect smaller objects, right? So the stereo camera uses a principle similar to our 2 eyes, right? So we can compare the difference between the 2 images and see in 3D, which is a camera can't usually do. And here we can see even smaller objects in 3D. Behind the front left wheel is our road humidity sensor. It's basically like a microphone. So it sits there and kind of listens for, right, splashing or noises like that. And then as we move to the back, we have a rear-facing multi-purpose camera. So, right, this is a little different, but we can see to the back and we can detect emergency vehicles, right? So fire trucks, tow trucks, and law enforcement. This little hump is different from a normal Level 2 car. So actually there's a GPS antenna that spans the whole width of the roof. It uses multiple different GNSS technologies, so European Galileo system and the American system, as well as atmospheric correction data. So, right, GPS can be interfered with by atmospheric conditions, right, that delay the measurement of the signals travel between satellites. And with this, we can use basically the known position of base stations and do some math to compare their received signal from their known signal, and then that information is broadcasted to our customer fleet, and then that car does the same math and can determine exactly where it is, even if GPS would normally be interfered with.
Coming up next, what will the future look like? As more vehicles with more advanced autonomous technology begin to fill our roads, experts say a whole new road reality could be unlocked. One where the cars talk to each other and to cities, where traffic could be eliminated and our relationship with cars could change forever. Professor Scott Mora with UC Berkeley is working on a technology that would allow platooning. This is where one car talks to another and can drive itself at a constant speed.
One of the keys to energy consumption with human-driven vehicles is their right foot. That is, we accelerate and decelerate, but it turns out that the most efficient way to operate vehicles is, to the extent possible, run them at constant velocity. When it turns green, then John and the vehicle in front will go forward. This vehicle will receive that data from the white car in front, and it will follow. So to be specific, this vehicle doesn't know it turned green. It just knows that John went forward and is following. And an important thing about tracking the speed is we're maintaining a gap between this vehicle and the white vehicle in front of us. And that gap is measured as a time gap, meaning the amount of seconds until this vehicle would arrive at the position of the vehicle in front of us.
Platooning is a novel idea being tested with the potential to create high efficiency on highways and eventually eliminate traffic jams.
You're not using your right foot now, Dimitris?
No, not at all.
No right foot. It's automatically following the white car. He's only in charge of steering. And this is all enabled because the white car that John's in here is communicating its speed back to this car, and then this car is able to track the white car very closely.
The next step many experts feel is for the cars to then talk to city infrastructure.
Where cities have leverage is at the curb, and cities are able to set rules about who can pull over, where, for how long, and how much it costs. And that is the place where cities are investing a lot of energy in digitizing their curb regulations and creating software, what's called an API, to allow the self-driving car's computer to talk to the city's computer to find out where it's allowed to pull over, drop off passengers, drop off cargo. And cities will use that power to both dictate and negotiate with these automated vehicle companies what they're allowed to do and the standards that they have to maintain.
Well, these intersections are smart. That is, they have a certain duration in which the lights are red and green, and these intersections will communicate wirelessly to the car how much longer they're red and green, and then the vehicle can receive that information through connectivity, and then the automation piece is that it will optimize its speed profile to minimize energy consumption. So this is not just about automated vehicles, but it's also automated infrastructure and how it all can work together.
Okay, so here's a great example of what you were talking about, which is vehicle to infrastructure and, of course, infrastructure to vehicle. So they're communicating. Tell us what we're seeing here.
So this is the smart infrastructure test facility that we have here at UC Berkeley. And what's unique about this traffic intersection is that there's a cabinet on the side, and that cabinet on the side, which includes radios, and it transmits to vehicles how long the traffic light will be red and green, and the vehicles can adjust their speed. But also the vehicles can communicate to the traffic lights, hey, there's a series of vehicles coming, and then the traffic light can adjust its timing so it can maximize the throughput of vehicles. So with this communication, you can do both infrastructure control, traffic light control, but also vehicle control.
That's right. And so how does that save on, let's say, energy efficiency?
Yeah, so the key for energy efficiency is to eliminate, to the extent possible, braking and accelerating. So if the vehicle knows, hey, this traffic signal is going to turn, say it's red, but in a couple seconds it's going to turn green, it can potentially not slow down so much because it knows the green light is coming.
So I have 6 seconds to get there, and I can accelerate.
Exactly.
So, what are some ways we could see our city environments change as these ideas take hold?
So one thing I think we're likely to see is cities try to push as much of the delivery traffic as they can to the wee hours of the morning. Once all these vehicles are electrified, they'll also be quiet. And so to be able to move goods in and out of a neighborhood at night is a great way to free up space on the streets for people during the day.
A connected drive system could fundamentally change the way we drive. A world with next to no traffic, no stoplights, faster commute times, and even a cleaner planet.
Look, we live in a world of global warming, and cars are a major factor in global warming. Not just the consumption of gasoline, but the entire vehicle has to be built, right? And has to be owned by somebody.
But according to Thrun, the irony is introducing more cars with advanced self-driving technology could lead to the end of personal car ownership.
97%, almost all cars are parked almost all the time. They make our cities ugly. They make it really hard to find parking spots. What a bad technology that you own your car. If your neighbor could use your car and it would cut the costs in half, wouldn't you be happy? I'm saying this because I believe in a world where people can share cars fluently, you're going to have a less of energy consumption and a greener world. So from a pure environmental perspective, self-driving cars are a must.
While self-driving technology is as advanced as it has ever been, experts say getting to the next stage of autonomy could take years, if not decades. And the pie-in-the-sky future of a connected city could be even further away. But one thing is certain, how we drive is changing, and when the technology is there, it will be safer than ever.